the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, December 11th, 2025. And we'll begin with approval of minutes. This is new for the three of us, so
I don't think we can do it.
I think we'll post it unapproved.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, number 2, discussion, possible action, capital improvement plan.
Okay. This is a new concept for all of us, capital improvement plan in finance. Oops, sorry about that. Mona has prepared these documents you have before you, the CIP 2026 to 2030. The part I'm going to get into initially is the concept of the reserves that we introduced 2 years ago. Actually planning and putting money away for the capital budget for the projects that we need to address, in the immediate year or 5 or 6 or 7 years down the line, and carry that funding year to year so we do not have to go out to, for example, out to borrow money, go out bonding to pave our roads, or to do something that we should have probably been planning for years before. So, that's my key here. And Mona will go through all the details with us now, the different various spreadsheets you have before you. These are all the projects that we've been looking at for a few years now, and you will be looking at new ones come January, February. So, Mona, you want to start
Sure.
looking at this?
So, yes, the good news is I am not going to go through every line item. This is actually the 25-30 capital improvement plan that's already been approved into the budget. What I really wanted to do is do like a preview of what the format is, how it lays out. The next month meeting, we'll have departments coming in and talking about what things they'd like to see for the upcoming year. So I'm going to go through this kind of on a very, very high level. So if you haven't really looked at a CIP, hopefully this will give you a little insight. But as town manager was saying, we had 2 years back.
By the way, Mona, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but when you say we're going to have people come in, you mean during the town council meeting, not during the finance meeting?
During finance, because this will be the CIP/finance.
Okay,
So
so they're
CIP
gonna-
will have
okay.
department heads come in.
And just for clarification, the fiscal year 2026 is what we're in right now.
Correct, yes. And CIP plan is for 5 years, so as we get ready for that next budget cycle, you're going to see this say the 27 to the 31. Okay, so this is what we are presently in. So for example, on that first page, I've got some kind of light highlighted items on there, and this is what shows us about that reserve concept. We had originally thought to have a reserve for education of $600,000 a year. When we had this budget adopted for 25-26, that was reduced to $100,000. Just kind of getting into the frame of mind as we should be looking at for the upcoming years to go back to that concept of putting a reserve for capital. And I will kind of jump around on pages a little bit, but for example, the next page that is called A. So what you'll see is for the current year, the 25-26 for Board of Ed had $100,000. If you look at those future years, 27, 28, 29, and 30, if we were looking at the Board of Ed, kind of side note, they are meeting and will come with a new schedule for us, but this is what we had at the time of the last budget. Some of their projects are clearly greater than $600,000, but if we are going to be responsible and financing that, we should continue to grow a reserve so as these projects come forward, we don't get ourselves into that situation where we need to go out and borrow and bond for projects.
Are there any potential grants for any of these projects?
Yes. What you'll get on, and I think that's a great question, is on A, for example, the HVAC systems, you'll see 700,000 and 700, that's that bottom line on A. When we're presenting this for Board of Ed, in order for them to get state funding, they need to show the full cost, so we can get grant funding. There will be revenues to offset. So for example, if they're at like 40% reimbursement, they'll show the full 700, the funds will come through and offset it. But we must show the full amount in order to get grant approval on that.
Thank you.
What was the previous discussion months ago about the HVAC and the reimbursement? Or was that I'm trying to remember, was that
Yes.
the West Hill?
Yes, it was. They had Phase 1 and Phase 2. The Phase 1, at that time when they were going into the Phase 1, the kind of the design, the preliminary, at the state level, there was not going to be, or at least there was not any earmarked funding for that. We are now in this current year in the Phase 2, and they are going in for reimbursement at around 40%. So hopefully, yeah, should be 40. But it always varies, you know,
This is for
Who we're competing
Stevens,
with.
not West Hill.
correct,
Okay, I thought I heard West Hill. Okay.
And I was looking at West Hill.
West Hill was the roof.
right.
Did you say West Hill? Yeah. He
Well,
said
which-
West
no,
Hill.
what was
West Hill was the roof.
West Hill's the roof.
Roof, right, but I thought that wasn't that the grant?
Yeah, we got the
The
money from
HVAC
that,
was.
Yeah.
The HVAC for Stevens?
But
Correct.
we used the money that we were gonna use on Stevens to fix the West Hill roof.
The money, yeah, for the roof, it gets a little more complicated. That was the money where we got the $1.6 million
Yeah,
from
because it
their
was
funds
leaking and
to
we
go
got
for it.
rid of it.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So is that 800,000 for West Hill still accurate?
Where do you see that?
Do you see that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking from the budget book.
Oh.
It was 800 for 2028.
Yes.
And you will see, like I said, and I won't go too much in the detail for the Board of Ed yet, but because I know that they actually either this week or the coming week are going to have their meeting for this, and they'll give updated numbers. I've already seen some of them change. So I think really what I want to do is not so much get into their line items, because they'll have someone come in and talk about the individual projects, but to get the concept of, we should be building a reserve because these are the type of items. They'll fluctuate, so this 750 could become 8, it could be something else. So that will be theirs. Again, I'm trying to keep let's get ourselves prepared for what this is going to look like. So when the departments come in next month, that we're not so much into how to read it, but more of just listening to what the project requests are.
If you jump to D, page
don't
D.
want to.
It's the,
Okay.
the grant.
Yeah, he wants me to jump to D. Yes, I'm going to go a little bit out of my order, but yes, on page D, you'll see there's a section where we have the grants and anything unfunded. Importance of that, of course, you can see anything that is grant funded, we're going to put it in here. We still want to put the items that are unfunded. When departments are coming in, making their request, it's extremely important to put in unfunded. What that does is it allows us, if we have a possibility for grant funding coming through, at least we have earmarked it as a project, it's here and it's already committed to.
'Cause it's
So as we're going through the process and listening to the CIP requests, we highly recommend putting them in here. I think we had gotten sometimes accustomed to saying if we don't want it, don't put it on the list, an unfunded list, even though it's large, but it's good to have it there in case something comes up and we can potentially cover it.
So when it comes time to, when we see the trucks and the mini excavator, things like that, at budget time, we'll know at that time whether there's a grant for it.
Correct.
And if there isn't, and we decide we're not going to approve it, that's when it gets cut.
Right, and it'll show as unfunded. And I
But I mean,
just wanted-
at what point, you don't just push it to the next fiscal year unfunded?
No, it'll just show as unfunded or come off. You'll see, I think probably a good example on that unfunded page. Let me jump around. I'm a little bit out of the order I wanted to put it on. But for example, exactly, that excavator showing up as unfunded. If Craig decides that this is still an item that he needs, he will come back, he'll request it, and then if we can either choose to continue it to be as an unfunded item, or if it wants to be applied to the general fund funded area.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't mind jumping around with me a bit, I want to go back to that first page and just talk about some of the other line items that we should get used to. Along that same idea of the Board of Ed and the reserves, we had designated a reserve for infrastructure. That's for the road improvement. We brought that down to 150. The goal was to have it at 450. There's a sub-page B, and that comes from the engineering department. And their ideal would be to have it at 950 and cover drainage. But again, these are things that we're going to talk about in detail. Again, just getting the reserve, being prepared. We don't have a road referendum. It's fully expended, something that we're going to be thinking about. And again, that's the layout. You'll see the reserve here, details in a separate page.
So not to like, I just as a memory, a reminder to me, that 150 versus the 450 was because they didn't use 300,000 the prior year.
Correct.
Okay.
However,
Go
I
ahead.
can't say it enough. But that's not the reason to do that. Because
Right.
like I said, your goal is that even if you're not, actually your goal is to not use it. You want it to roll over, you want it to be able to fund something in the future. So if we left that at 450 this year and we funded it, then you would have it for the future years for road improvements, the drain study. Because as you can see on the highway, they ideally should have 900,000 because we're doing like a 10 million bond referendum. So when they're budgeting, we're trying to get away from the idea of budgeting for the current year's need, but budgeting for building a reserve for future needs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
The only problem I have, Mona, is I know that's been tried in the past. We put money aside for the Elm Ridge pool, it got pulled out. You know, every time we try and do that. So the same argument years ago when the state wanted to put in tolls and people wanted that lockbox for the revenue so that the legislature wouldn't take that money for other projects. How would you guarantee that if there was a reserve, that it wasn't used for something that it wasn't intended for?
Well, I'm going to really answer that one because you'll get onto, if we get that far, we'll get onto the non-recurring funds. Non-recurring funds, and I'll show you that, has individual line items. When we're transferring money in, it is for that purpose. And the way to take it out of that purpose is by coming for a resolution to transfer it. I can't speak for what happens, but that is how money moves in that non-recurring
So in order for
page.
that to have moved, there had to be a resolution.
Correct.
And the resolution came before the town council?
I have no idea. That predates
Makes-
me.
well,
Well, the resolution
It should be.
has to come from the town, yeah. It has to.
So
It would go to
would've-
finance and then, right. And you'll see when I get into non-reoccurring, I'll show you, you have some line items that are called undesignated. And we still have those funds available. That would come here if you've got a purpose, you want to put it to the pool, resolution, move it from undesignated to the pool. So that should be, and that's how I can guarantee that it's going to be that way, because that's the design of the fund, and that's how we handle the fund.
Which I don't.
Yeah, for my education, again, going back. 10 years ago, Guy would come across and say, oh, I have all this money unfounded, or he found money from various accounts to balance the budget or something. Where is all that money that he was finding? Was it just excess from different departments that he was able to transfer into the general fund, or?
Yeah, I think what we had is at year end, and again, you're putting me back into that frame of mind, doesn't mean I have to condone it or not. But yes, at year end, if there's unfunded balances, just what we did this year, you had a resolution that said transfer from general fund to non-recurring. Again, resolution, transfer to the fund. And once it's been transferred for a purpose, because that resolution says this dollar amount has a purpose. If it doesn't have a purpose, it will say undesignated, and you'll see a couple of little line items that So if it's unexpended money in a current year, I think if it were found that year, perhaps a project that wasn't expended, perhaps a great year, you didn't have any snow and the contingency line wasn't expended. So that's where transfers come from. They do them every year.
But it's not mid-year.
Oh, no, transfers
But I mean,
are,
if something came up where he needed money, he wouldn't say, oh, I found some money that I could pull from
no,
without council approval.
correct,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, thanks.
right. Just touching on the reserve for Parks and Rec, same idea. You know, we're going for a reserve, and then you'll find a page that we're trying with the parks and facilities, any items that they have. They are actually working on updating some of that. The requests are coming in, so we'll have their more detail in January. Just want to touch on a couple more before we get into the rest of the finance meeting. You will see line items such as repairs to road, town aid. That is state funds. It's coming to the general fund. It will always show up here on CIP because that's its purpose. We had LoCIP, which was going through here. The state's made other decisions on LoCIP. You'll find it later on tonight showing up in non-reoccurring. The energy efficiency, that's RLE, that is going to be on for the next 5 years. That was the plan that facilities did with the energy efficiency. All of the remaining items there are leased items. So you'll see that some will show, for example, the Freightliner truck is there for 3 years. It's probably a 4 or a 5 year, oh, actually that's just gonna be a 3-year lease. So you'll see them going, and eventually you'll find others like that dump body, a couple lines down, 21,000 for this year, and it doesn't appear next year. That lease is done. And so then you'll have, I guess, in a sense, dollars freed up if someone comes in and says, well, that lease expired, can I purchase another item? And that's something that we'll experience when the departments are coming in.
When you say lease, it doesn't say like we don't own it, so if the lease is over, then I assume they're taking the Freightliner back.
They're lease purchases, always lease purchase.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
So that means we own it at the end of that
Correct,
expenditure?
yes, yeah, lease purchase.
Good question, I didn't think of that.
I was like thinking, well, it's just like when you buy a car, okay, lease over, here's your car, I need another car. Okay. That's very good to know, actually. Okay.
All right, and that's really all I wanted to kind of make sure that we got used to the format, what type of things are on there, the concept of the reserves. At least for today, that was my plan to present that regarding CIP. If there's any questions, I'm open.
Sort of asked them as we were going along.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the questions interim. No, I think I'm okay.
So who's gonna show up next month?
We have already, ideally, we'll have Board of Ed come in if they've finalized theirs. If not, they'll go on to February. We've got Craig Bowman is coming through with some for him. You will have Brian Klett coming in regarding some police vehicles because they have limited funding, so they'll be bringing that forward. I think maybe a couple of items as well. Facilities, and you'll have Joe Lantini from Highway regarding some of the new vehicles. I should have Steve there you go, Steve Sopelak for some of the community development, that the road repairs, again, which we don't have road referendum. He'll be talking about some of that as well as the grant projects.
So we did use up all that money already?
We did. We're actually finalizing it. There's some fog sealing. There's probably about 300,000 of it that's remaining for the rest of this year.
Okay.
But it's planned down to the last 1,000.
So the people that come in, they come in as needed? Did I hear that? Like the police, is Clet's coming in because he needs new cars, but is that an annual thing?
This is a CIP, so again, because we're putting finance and CIP would meet quarterly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do the preview, so that's actually going to be their quarterly meeting,
I got it now.
which would
Okay.
occur before the budget process. That way they'll know how to move forward onto the process to include or not include.
Okay.
Okay. Update special revenue fund.
Okay. Let me keep going. What we do here, it's relatively new. I think you may not have seen it in past years, but I'm trying to show you special revenue funds. We have some funds that are here that are fee-for-service. I'll give you a highlight every month, how much they've collected year-to-date, how much they've spent, as well as their remaining balance. I have notes to the far right that'll tell you what type of fund it is. But basically, any special revenue fund cannot be used to fund things in general fund. They are intended for a specific purpose. Special revenues do not have, unlike a grant, which would just have a specific amount and have an end date, these are ongoing rollover funds for the basic idea. One of the things that we've gotten accustomed to is for me to share with you if we have any of these funds that a department head is planning on spending something that's an individual item, $5,000 or greater, because we wanted to be sure that we're very transparent that as these funds are being expended, that if there's a specific item that you'll be aware of them. So maybe for this being our first time through, I'll go through them kind of quickly. I had some that were just the highlights, but let me just go through them a little bit. So for example, you have CDBG Small Cities. That was actually a special revenue from the past. The program has ended. We've gone to the state, and we should be having a public hearing, I don't know, maybe in the next few meetings. And those funds are going to be reallocated with permission of the state to go through the affordable housing project.
Rocky Hill Housing Authority.
Right.
The project they're rehabbing, that fund, yeah.
Recreation program, that is a grouping of any of these parks rec programs as well as the senior activity programs in there. You've got aquatics, you've got rec programs, and some, I guess that would be the gist of it, and the senior programs.
Is that where the extra money for the senior lunches comes from?
Exactly, yes, yes. Insurance loss,
On that program, Mona, again, I don't want to dissect this, but we have a balance that is roughly 54,000 less from July to today, November 30th.
yes.
Is that just because of the time of year, we haven't collected monies for other programs, or are they overspending the budget?
No.
Is there a budget for this expenditures?
Yeah, they don't budget, but what it is that their programs are supposed to be fee for service, so they don't, they're, whatever they're generating, they're supposed to be expending.
Yeah.
This is the July 1 balance, and this particular one tends to run a higher balance for the beginning of the year because a lot of the revenues are being collected in the summer for summer activities, and you'll watch it kind of deplete.
They haven't expanded it all.
Right, you've
Yeah.
got the aquatics and so forth, and they'll tend to deplete. The ideal is that to have 2 months of operating in the balance. We have actually historically seen it, if it tends to get a little bit high, that we can draw off of that and use it as a source of revenue for general fund as we're building the future budget. So we like to keep an eye on that, but you still want to keep enough balance in there so if something were to occur, that they've got 2 months operating at all times.
What is the operating monthly amount, do you know?
Well, if we're looking at this, for example, we're about the 4th month, so about 100,000 per year. So they're
Okay.
kind of teetering on a bit high,
The expenditure, the 476 divided by 4 is what you're saying.
basically, yes.
It's actually 5, so that's not that bad.
Insurance loss is not that terribly exciting. This is actually any liability claims that may have occurred, and this will show you the dollars that are coming in and then the offset to cover the loss. For example, if we had a vehicle totaled, then the funds are coming in from the insurance, and then the offset would be to pay for the repair. This one will tend to be small and balance itself out throughout time. Library operating is just basically that, any fees that they're catching from the library activities, and the offset of dollars that they will expend for, tends to be books or any other supplemental. Dog fund, relatively small. Those will be for the dog license. There's a portion of the fee that will come into this fund. Asset forfeiture. Has started with a larger balance. This is the particular area where if there was a police case and there was obviously assets forfeited, that we go in and we will get a portion of it if we were participating in the case. You will see this revenue source begin to deplete. Right now, they've got a purchase in, I think I'd mentioned at a prior meeting, for 4 vehicles. This has been a great source for the police department to purchase their vehicles, but as this dollar amount depletes, they will be coming forward and looking for general fund in CIP.
But they'll still have some more asset forfeiture coming in, correct?
They should. They don't have the, I guess, the staff allocated to that particular program, so that's not going to generate what it did. They will still have some activity, but not aggressive.
And what was the reason for the decrease?
The 4 vehicles.
I mean, I see 425,000 came in.
Yes.
That seems pretty healthy.
It is, and it's not necessarily dependable funding, which is the
Right,
challenging thing. So I think some of these, we had, I think, a case that was pending since 2018 that came in, actually, I think that drove the big piece of this. So
kinda
otherwise you could be,
convoluted the number potentially.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they purchased 4 new cruisers?
The 4 will be coming through, so that's that 500,000, you'll see that probably come down to about 2.
Okay.
Town clerk, this is basically with the town clerk, any of the fees that they have, there's always a portion of its portion, and it's very particular with the state. A certain dollar amount of each recording will go to the clerk, others will go to LOSIP, others will go to the state, and this is a part that they refer to as going to a clerk fund. For the most part, this is being used for retention of records. So we can have, microfiching or equipment that we may need. So it's the purpose for that fund. Youth service and human services. Again, those are just strictly fees for service. If it be counseling, or did they do a project graduation project. Police grants, this would stand out, and this particularly, you've seen the notes, miscellaneous, but basically this one is the opioid grant. You'll see that being used for things like the Palooza that Human Service does, or they can do purchase of Narcan, so that becomes specific to the grant. Highway, we've got just ending a lot SEP project, which will deplete probably about 50,000 on that. And the biggest part of that is the NIPS program. That's the money that we're getting for all of those tiny little NIPS. There is a plan from the highway department that they're upgrading their sweeper, the backhaul sweeper. So we had to let it build a little bit so they can do that purchase. And that's
sweep
going to
up the-
allow them to, what's that?
Is that to sweep up the nips?
It is. It's litter. They actually the funding. They want to hear things like that. Like, what are you doing? So we're going to do things like that, and then also cover the what do you call them? The dumpsters at the
Dumpster covers
transfer
at the
station.
transfer station.
So, but our biggest purchase will be that the backhaul. Fire. This is the dollars that we're getting from the the highway, I mean, the fire department for any calls that they're making out on the exit ramps, or, well, exit and entrance, depending on where it occurs. We'll see this tend to accumulate, and then the chief will come back and let us know what his purpose is for those funds. Again, it has to be anything fire-related.
How far behind are they in reimbursement?
Pardon me?
How far behind is the state in reimbursing?
Well, they tend to run, I'd say, about 60 to 90 days. We keep track of them. The chief runs a spreadsheet of everything that he's invoiced, and we try to watch it as it comes in for the individual tickets. Private duty, that's strictly police private duty. Usually just a fee for service. It's the amount we're charging the companies if they had service offset by the expenditures. Side note on that, we have $200,000 at year end will come out of that fund, so they're at $300 now. We'll take the $200 off of that, and that's going to go into general fund to offset pension costs. When we're charging for a private duty job, that is based on the an average pay as well as employee benefits. So it's a little bit of overhead built into it. So we can take a piece of that and use that as offset for benefits.
So if somebody calls for a private detail, they pay the town, and then the town will pay the officer. but
Correct.
We take a little off the top.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Mona, is there a chance for, like the asset forfeiture, is there any chance to transfer any of that to the general fund?
The asset forfeiture, no. This one is very strict.
We can't even use it for benefits for them?
No, not for that one. And again, a lot of these special revenues, they have their own little quirks to what it is. Asset forfeiture being one of the more strict. Ruth Wilcox, that's actually a trust fund, and that's intended for children's books only. So our library department likes to be very cautious on how that's expended. It's a trust, and it's not a growing fund. It will only deplete. And cemetery, and that's our sale of plots versus costs for maintenance of those. In your future months, and we'll not go through them individually like that. We'll just kind of give you the highlight of those that have some kind of unusual activity.
Just
in
address
those.
anomalies, whatever.
Right.
It would be, I don't know if you guys feel the same, I think it would be useful to have year-over-year changes, percentage changes,
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to know
like for,
balances too, right?
yeah, revenue, and then expenditures, and then year-to-date balance.
All right. We can change that. That's it for that particular item.
Okay. Update on reserve for capital and non-recurring expenditure fund through November 30th.
So we've talked about that a little bit as part of the previous discussion. But this is the summary that we were talking about. For example, your Elm Ridge pool in there, which I think is probably at about $10,000 in the middle of that. So again, about how this evolves, again, it's a non-recurring, so if you have money that is not expended in the prior year, we can transfer it here. This is the common place to transfer it. As you can see, each one of these has a specific purpose to it. You will have, I think before the subtotal on town council, it's called reserve unassigned. Those dollars have not been assigned to a project. If we were to plan to do something, then we would make a request and prepare a resolution, and we transfer it to either a new line item or one of the existing. That would be the same with the undesignated fund balance. So it has not been designated for a purpose. That's exactly what we do. For those that are existing, you have the CIP for the high school. Good grief. We finally are very close to finishing the audit for that high school project. This is a vendor who is waiting for his final payment for this to be complete. So that's probably my most patient vendor around. For the engineering for sidewalks, any unexpended where we've had in the past, maybe LoCIP programs that hadn't been expended, they can roll over here, can be used for sidewalk only. LoCIP, I touched upon that before. In the past, LoCIP was going through general fund. The state has changed that, and they will be putting the LoCIP money here into non-recurring. That way it gives it more of a life and a rollover, and you can accumulate funds. Repairs to buildings, that would have been prior money that had been not spent from usually the capital line, or maybe it was a utility line. For example, this one, that was the repairs and improvements to town buildings, for the interest for road referendum. We had in the 24-25 budget planned to do the notes for the road referendum. And the timing of it allowed us to be able to put $180,000 in to help us offset the interest for this year. So those are the type of things when you have extra there to roll it in for a purpose. I don't know if you need me to go through all of those. I think the majority of them are kind of self-explanatory. So again, the way to move the funds within these would be through a resolution to take it off the line.
Yeah, I think down the road, we're going to need a presentation from Craig about an update to the pool. I haven't heard anything lately about that.
And he may mention that part of CIP for next month when we have him come in.
Okay.
Actually, I'm pretty sure he will, because I think it's identified as an ongoing item. Okay. So that's it for capital non-recurring.
Questions? All set, Dave?
No, I'm pretty good, yep.
State aid?
Not a lot of excitement here, but what we try to do is keep track of any state revenue that's coming in. This tends to let you know if, we've got something planned and it's off schedule, not coming in from the state. So simple form, but basically telling you that anything that is planned so far has come through in time. The pilot, the September payment has arrived. Mashantucket, December has not, but we'll probably have it in any day now. The Town Aid Road, we had the first payment in place. ECS, we've also got the first one. We should get the next in January. And municipal revenue sharing, first payment is in as well. This tends to be something to watch, in past years, that at times it's something we had budgeted for state revenue. Either they're giving us less or it's not funded. So, because this is.
And that was going to be my question. Of these 5 things, has there been in the past items that you haven't received or?
Yes. It tends to be that municipal revenue sharing, tends to be the one that's, if the state's not going to fund something, it tends to be that, because that's basically revenue sharing. So if it's not available, then you may or may not get it. Last year, they gave us the mighty scare that we weren't having it, and then it was around June that they came in and had it. So it's like we were responding as if revenue wasn't coming, and then had found that it came through. Occasionally, that ECS formula, we're trying to budget for it, but then when they get the final actuals, you'll see that be a little more or less. So we watch that one too.
Questions?
So that ECS, that's the big item there.
It is.
Has that been short in the past, or we can count on that?
Minimally. I think last year we probably had like less than, maybe it was around 80 to 90,000 off. But still something manageable.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they've been good about, we get the estimates from the state, so we usually have those numbers in place before we do the budget. It's usually when they don't have it finalized at the state level, and we try to estimate that it gets a little hairy. So as long as they are on track with their budgeting, we're on track with ours.
And we are on track. That's kind of what we thought then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any estimate what the Mashantucket grant is going to be?
We're expecting the 213.
Okay. Monthly financial?
Okay. I'm going to go into my little sub-packet. So what I ordinarily do with this is I've already written my executive summary. I'll just touch on some of the areas there. So first of all, I like to talk about revenue. I jump into the page that's called 2A, which is the tax collectors page, because that's our biggest source of revenue. What we do with reviewing the tax revenue is I've created a 3-year benchmark. This way it gives us a sense of, if we're coming in and not just looking at the year in isolation, but we can kind of get a sense of where we are. Just pointing out, so on that lower half of that tax collector page, right now, if we're following the benchmark, that we're actually behind in collections, about $350,000. Something to watch, but at this point, we're not terribly alarmed. We have seen this tend to sort itself out when the next round of tax bills will go out in January. The motor vehicle supplementals are going out on, I don't even know what day I'm on today. They're going out on the 16th. So we'll start seeing some revenues pick up there. A good part that I'm going to point out on this particular page is it's probably about mid-range. We talk about prior year's tax collected, $440,000 compared to prior year 95. This is a result of our tax collection service that we're using. So you can see in the past where the collections were not as great. So we continue each year to give a new group of unpaid tax items to TaxServe, and they're sending out and collecting, and you can clearly see by looking at that it is faring well for us. The following page is on revenues. I'm just going to kind of point out, we've talked about the tax, we know what's going on with the state. Interest is doing very well. I've got a new treasurer, and he is just proving himself that if I've got a dollar that's dangling around, he's finding a place for it. So interest is doing wonderfully. The conveyance title, vitals, building permits are basically on target. Building a little bit behind, but we'll probably pick up seasonally. So for revenues overall, I would say on target and no major concerns. As far as the expenditures, you've got a few pages in there. We have one page that is the same dollar amounts, but it is sorted by department. So you'll see that one that goes through, and it'll say town council, town manager, and so forth. The following section, we do it by object. Sometimes you'd like to see it by what kind of purchase, not so much by the department, but you can see all salaries, all services. So again, it's a lot of numbers, but it's just the same pie sliced different ways. And the multiple page, which is the colorful one, the 16 page is the actual budget line items for that particular year to date as of November 30th. Some highlights I had for the month of November. Salaries are on target. Overtime, which tends to be an area that I've got to watch it very closely. Through November, we're actually in a good place. Of course, we just had our first little snowy ice situation, so my overtime for highway I'll have to start watching, and we'll see what happens in police department as they move forward. Just pointing out some of the items that you'll see, ordinarily we should be at about 40% 4 months into the year. Certain things will jump out, so I do mention that some of the contracts, like software and so forth, are paid annually. So if you see something that jumps out and you're at 100%, it's ordinarily a contract paid up front. The uniform allowance would probably be one of those that jumps out at you. We've paid all out for July for the most part. When you're reviewing the numbers, just keep in mind, I'll try to let you know every month. For example, the trash, that's 4 months. So even though this is 5 months, you're seeing 4 months of expenditures, just a timing in finance. Sewer, which is a large line item, is done quarterly. So you'll see that probably a little high, it'll be at 50%. Employee or insurance, such as your liability and workers' comp, those are also quarterly. So again, if you get looking into some of those details and see percentages that look a little off kilter, that is because they are quarterly, not monthly. Debt tends to jump out, but that's more on a principal first and then interest in 2 installments. We've got a capital line items. You'll have one in there that you'll see that's the boiler is encumbered, so it'll look like it's completely gone. That's a project. We have to do a purchase order and spend accordingly. And if you're looking at expenditures for Board of Ed, they report to us on a monthly basis. We have their information as of October when this was presented. So probably any day now we'll get their November numbers. We usually tend about 30-day behind. So that's at the very high level. If there's any questions on any of those, I will entertain that.
Questions?
I'm good on that.
Quick question. What was the effect of changing over to the state 2.0 health plan? Was it positive or negative?
It was necessary, I would say. We were, before going on, we were in the HSA plan with Cigna, and we were facing, actually, they were quoting about a 40% increase for that upcoming year based on claims. I mean, we particularly just had, and I think we still have a bit of a claim issue. So definitely we had to do something different, and the 2.0 brought us in at about a 12 to 15%, probably about the same increase, which is obviously a lot better than 30 and 40. And right now it's kind of forcing numbers that we are combined with the Board of Ed. So they're looking at us combined.
So Board of Ed has the 2.0 too, right?
Correct. We all went on the same. That's how they had closed out that $1.6 million because they
Right.
switched their fund and
Right.
came over. So
Okay,
great move.
yeah. Well, I remember seeing the review, the presentation on 1.0. And it wasn't quite there yet.
Right. Yeah, they did well with the 2.0, and the staff seemed to like it.
Yeah. Okay. Approval of 2026 meeting dates
Yes. So,
as amended.
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you, Mimi? You still have to check?
Do you have to check, or are you okay with it?
As amended. The second Tuesday at 5 PM.
Check Passover and,
Could be tabled. It could be tabled, no, yeah, it could be tabled because you have until January 31st by state
You want to table it?
statute.
no, all right, so the Seders are the first, so this was the
well, then what
Third-
would we do about
Second
January?
Tuesday.
second Tuesday. All right, so
What would you do
that
on
one's
that day?
okay.
If you don't approve it, you don't have a meeting.
Yeah, actually,
Okay, so that one's okay.
you really can't table unless you have a special meeting, because,
I know, because we have January meeting next.
Right.
well, that's 13.
If we approve to change it, we could go to the 13th. Right now, it stands at the
Tuesday's
the
okay?
8th.
Yeah, Tuesdays are good, so we can change
Okay.
Okay,
the
Yes.
dates to the second Tuesday of each month, 5 PM.
very good.
Is this a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, make
Yes.
a motion. One.
I move
So be,
approving the meeting dates of the second Tuesday of the month at 5 PM for 2026.
and any adjustment that needs to be made due to a holiday, fine,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I see a raise of hands, please?
Anything other?
Nothing.
Okay.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
All right.